So bear with me. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Is that good, Jamie?
Yes, I can see that, and we've got some yeses in the chat, so I think that's
excellent. Okay, thank you. It's more important than my big face. So, and let's just see if I can click through it. Oh, I know what's happening. Okay, I'm going to stop share. Sorry, I think it's always that thing of presenter view, so forgive me. Let's try it that way. You don't want that. If you'll just bear with me for 1 second. It's not a good start, I know. I'm better on, I'd prefer to be live for this. I knew this was going to happen. Okay. There we go. What I don't want to do is it to play. Okay, I think I've sorted this out. Thank you for your patience. Right. Okay, can you see the screen? I think we've got there now. So look, thank you. You can see all the joys of technology, and we're going to come to that later. I'm Max Jones. First, thank you, Jamie and Peter, for inviting me. And I think what you'll find if you're in a new lecturing post is that because of the quality assurance requirements of universities, new lecturers are all forced to take courses which are of variable quality, but they will mean that you talk about teaching. But once you've taken those courses, there's a real problem in that, given if you're fortunate enough to have a lecturing post, you'd be shocked at how little lecturers actually talk about teaching, given the amount of time we spend doing it. So it's fantastic to have events like this. I think I've thought harder about my teaching practice just in the 45 minutes, Peter, and some of the questions that you've raised than I have for the last 9 months. And I put myself in the sort of top of the spectrum of people who are interested in and engaged with teaching. So these events are important. And I think what I wanted to begin with is saying I'm going to speak and you're going to do some work as well for about half an hour, but I must say from the outset, I'm not some guru and I'm going to come with me. I'm going to reveal the secret to great lecturing. I'm afraid that's not going to happen. Instead, I've got 8 top tips for you. So what I want to do instead is talk through some more of the practical issues that we're addressing and draw on the experience that I've acquired from lecturing for 20 years. So that's the plan. And my goal is at the end, some of it is common sense and you'll think I know that already, but I'm hoping that there might be 1, 2 or 3 things that you can take away and you think, oh, that's a good idea. And if that's the case, then it's been a successful session. So can I ask you in the chat just to begin with, and then Jamie, can you report back to me, what are history lectures for? What are we, so if I'm going to talk for the next 25 minutes about the history lecture, what are we trying to achieve in a lecture theatre? And I'm talking about old school lectures here where we've got 50, 100, 150 students sitting looking at the single lecturer, and for all its pedagogical problems, mainly because of the time issue, it's a very efficient way. 1 hour of staff time can communicate and give students 150 students 1 hour. So that's one of the reasons it continues. So what are we trying to achieve? Jamie, I'm hoping we've got some things in the chat.
Yeah, we've already got some great stuff. A springboard for small group discussion, communicating big ideas or historical narratives, engaging their interest so they come back, imparting knowledge of a period or event, giving content and major themes of the topic, give crucial context information to assess independent work, provide a grounding that can be sort of dug into in seminars, independent research, knowledge transference of critical core information, communicating big theories, ideas, for
Excellent.
better
I think
discussion.
this is great. So I think then what that rather shows, I think I've covered most of these. So this is my list. I think I didn't include setting up small group work specifically, but I think that comes into this piece of advice that I'm giving. How do your lectures fit into the course unit? So I'm not going to go read out everything. You can read these PowerPoint slides yourself. The key message I've got is that courses are very different, but most of us will be teaching on courses which have got some form of lecture and seminar. And I think it's really important for you to begin in your first lecture and say, well, what are we going to be doing? We're meeting once a week, we're meeting twice a week for an hour. Why? What's my aim? What am I hoping to achieve? And how does the lecture fit into the rest of the course? So I'm really stress the point. I'm going to give you some information, but the primary purpose of me every 50 minutes is not to cram you full of facts about British history, because that would be really boring and it wouldn't be pedagogically very effective. And you can do that much more efficiently yourself through your reading, online textbooks, etc. So I sort of set myself up and explain that I'm a guide for the course, and I'll talk about what I want to achieve in specific lectures. I'll talk about the boring administrative stuff about how the course works and how the lecture then relates to the seminar and any other activities that are going on. So if we've done the aims of the course, content, and I think my main message to you is less is more. And if you'll allow me, when I began, I felt a lot of pressure. I wanted to prove that I deserved to be there. So I think any new lecturer, you will undoubtedly feel anxiety. Oh, I'm standing in front of these people. I want to establish my authority. It's obviously easier if you're a middle-aged white man, and I take that for granted now that they're going to be quiet if I stand there looking slightly cross. But when you're starting, you're anxious. Some of you might not look that different from the students. Lucky you. And one response to that is, I'm going to show off my knowledge. I've got so much. And therefore, students just you bombard them with information. And my main message to you really is, for a lecture, less is more. I've mentioned on the slide a test that Eric Evans did. This was a great lecturer at Lancaster, and he studied, he asked students immediately after the lecture and then 2 weeks after the lecture what they remembered, and they didn't remember very much. So all that information that you're bombarding them with, it's not going in, it's superficial learning. So what I try and do in lectures is identify 1 or 2 or 3 key takeaways. I think 3 maximum. If you can get 3, you're doing well. This is the really important point that I want you to get from this lecture, and I'll explain to the students, I'll tell the students, this is what I want you to take away. So let me give you a concrete example. If I'm lecturing on the 1960s, say, to first years, and we're debating the cliche of the swinging 60s, I might say to them, and this is basic stuff, I might say to them that the main argument I want you to take away is to question how far the cliche of the swinging 60s extended beyond the metropolitan elite. That's what I want you to think about today. Social and cultural changes, certainly we can see amongst affluent people in central London, but what about working class communities in Oldham? And if that's it, I might try and find an image or an anecdote to hammer that home, and I'll stress that's the takeaway. So often when I'm doing a lecture, it can be hard if you're lecturing on a topic that you know a lot about, because you might have, oh, I've got to tell them these 20 things. And then the real challenge in the lecture is making those difficult decisions to go, I can't get into that. Maybe I'll lay it down and mention it and mention there's a book, but really I'm going to focus on these 1, 2, or 3 key takeaways that I want students to leave the lecture theatre with. Oh, and I've got the link to Eric Evans' study in the final slide on the PowerPoint that will be distributed. Okay, so again, top tip number 3, this is common sense, preparation. But this is like a confessional coming here to give this lecture. Just knowing where the lecture theatre is a help. So I gave a lecture at Manchester once, and it was a building that I hadn't lectured in before, but I've been there, I think, 5 years, and I thought, it's fine, I know where that lecture theatre is. And I turned up and went all the way into the building, or to the entrance to the building, and then it's like, oh, this is the wrong building. And it was 5 minutes before the lecture was due to start. So I've desperately got my phone out. It's like, well, where am I meant to be? And I got there 12 minutes past. So I probably started the lecture at 15:15. And luckily, they were still there. So we did have a productive learning session. But it was unprofessional of me. And it was also really stressful for me as well. It's not good for your health. So make life easy for yourself. Make sure you know not just the building, but where the lecture theatre is. We've got buildings in Manchester where the lifts get very busy at the top of the hour. So it's, oh, it's fine, I can get there. And then if it's on the 5th floor and you want to get the lift because you don't want to be out of breath, I try and make myself walk now. But actually, it can take 10 minutes to go up on a lift. So this is common sense, but really make life easy for yourself by doing that prep. And top tips as well, technology and the use of technology. A key point here is it makes a big difference when you're lecturing. If you're coming in at midday in a busy lecture theatre, the chances are the screen will be down, the projector will be on, and you just have to log into a computer. But if you're lecturing at 9 o'clock, even 10 o'clock, actually you might be the first person in. So you might have to turn on the computer, you might have to turn on the projector, you might have to lower the screen. And again, I'm talking from experience where suddenly it's like, oh no, how do I lower the screen? So make life easy for yourself. And then a final point about this, and particularly as well, a little tip. If you're using some technology, maybe a piece of software, you've spent loads of time setting it up, make sure it runs in the room that you're in. You can assume that PowerPoint runs, but I certainly had an experience in the past where just something, whatever the plugin that I was trying to use some functionality through Blackboard just didn't work. So particularly if it's something a little out of the ordinary, make sure the room that you're in is equipped. And a key point as well, have backups if technology doesn't work. Now, what I mean by that is, I think we had a great example of that from Peter earlier. Peter knew that the audio might not play because particularly in Zoom like this, the audio is often difficult. But Peter knew that that might happen, so he wanted to give it a try. But he also, I haven't spoken to him about this, Peter, so I hope you don't mind this, Peter, but I thought it was a great example. You just moved on because you already were prepared. Oh, that might not work. And one message to you is if you are confident, easier said than done, I know, and can smooth these things over, it helps a great deal. So I was a bit anxious about my PowerPoint at the beginning, and it was a little bit messy, but I didn't suddenly rabbit in the headlights because I thought that might be happen. It might be a little bit tricky setting it up at the beginning. So actually being prepared and then being relaxed, having other strategies and not being too thrown. I had one example to share you with. I saw a paper by someone at a conference in America. Every slide had typos in, but the guy didn't care. And I think then about 15 minutes in, he mentioned and blamed his research assistant. But it was great. He was not thrown by the typos. And so therefore, actually, it had very little impact on the effectiveness of the session. Now, I'm not recommending that you fill your PowerPoint slides with typos, but it was a very good example about how the demeanor and response of the lecturer actually puts the audience at ease. If every slide came up and he went, oh, it's got a typo, I'm so sorry, I really apologize, it would have just killed the session. Okay. Performance. Now, you can already see I'm quite a performy people, a big show people. I'm not a people, a performy person. I like lecturing. I enjoy performing, but you may not enjoy it, but I try and enjoy myself. Most of us aren't appointed to posts because we're effective performers. Okay, we're giving teaching presentations, etc., and that's usually a part of why we've been appointed. But our research is often at least as important in teaching and research posts, if not more important. And as we know, Manchester is a big department, and we have a tremendous range of people, from some very confident performing lecturers to other very shy lecturers, but they can be terrific because they've developed their own effective lecturing style. So I think the challenge then is for you to be yourself. I'm like to walk, like to engage students when I lecture, but that can be distracting, and I now try and deliberately stand behind the podium at times as well, so I'm not just striding around making people dizzy through the whole lecture. But I've got other colleagues, particularly those concerned about voice projection, and they never move. They'll stay by their podium, but they've developed very effective lecturing styles. So I think that's a challenge for all of us, to find our own voice so that we're comfortable with lecturing. But there are a couple of tips that I think everybody, regardless of your style, can use. And one of them is not just to read out a script. My son's doing engineering at Sheffield at the moment, and I ask him, and certainly he's experienced a real variety, and he's got a couple who just read the script out and they're so boring he just doesn't go. And nobody goes. Now, when I started, I wrote out my lectures in full, and they were, the script was a safety net for me. I was nervous and I wrote it all out. But gradually I've built the confidence to go off script. And I would recommend to you that that is a skill that you all try and develop. Because I think it is a skill that everybody has. If I sat down with every one of you, we would be able to have a conversation in which we both talked about history, and you could talk about your research or a period that you were interested in. So the challenge is to develop that skill to be able to do what we all do naturally in conversation, to do that in front of other people. And one tip for you to help develop that skill, if you write out your scripts at the beginning, as I did, which is understandable, and it definitely helps you keep to time, one tip is to timetable in, maybe just one to begin with, a moment when you go off script. So it helps you build the confidence. Maybe you show an image or a particular slide that you're really confident about, and you just put the script down and then you talk about that slide for a couple of minutes, and then you go back to the script and then you go, oh, actually I can do this. Or you go, right, I'm at this point in the lecture, I'm going to tell a story. There's a particular anecdote that I think I want to tell because it makes a particular point, and I'll put my script down and do that. And then I'll go back to my script. And then you realize, oh, okay, I can do this. And it helps you build your confidence. Breaking lectures up, I think, is that helps you do this. We know the research shows, lots of pedagogical research, after about 15-20 minutes people lose concentration. They're not going to be as attentive to what you're saying. So breaking up what's going on in the lecture, the style, putting the script down, talking about something else, that can be a very effective way of engaging the audience. So one of my techniques is I might go off completely halfway through, and sometimes I'll make it relevant to the lecture, but sometimes I won't. It's almost like the seventh inning stretch in baseball. Nothing to do with the baseball game, but everyone gets up and has a seventh inning stretch. So I just thought I'd show you to break things up. This is me with Eric Morecambe. How cool is that? I love this photograph. 1976, there was a charity do at Blenheim Palace, and I went with my mum and dad and my sister, and I think they must have paid, I don't know how much it was, 50p. This is 1976, and I could get my photograph taken with Eric Morecambe, and I actually remember it, and he was very friendly and made me feel very at ease, and I think you can see that from the big grin that I've got on my face. So that's my equivalent. You can do what you want as a sort of seventh inning stretch. Maybe that's an opportunity to go off a script and tell a story to break things up. So gimmicks, etc., etc. But do keep to time. Pressure's on me. I know. I started at 35, so I've got to stop at 5 past. I was awful at keeping to time when I started, and I think it was because self-importance. What I've got so much to tell you, and it's so important, and so I would often go to 5-2 at Manchester. When we were meant to start at the top of the hour and then finish at 10-2. And I start at 4 or 5 past and finish at 10-2 now, because starting at the top of the hour is never efficient. So I used to carry on, but no, you must stop. You need to show respect to your colleagues who are coming after you, who need to set up. And you need to show respect for the students who have other commitments. Maybe they've got childcare commitments. Maybe they've got to get a train. Lots of them will have to get over the campus. As we know, their timetables often take no account of the geography of campuses. So you've got to let them move about as well. So very important, keep to time. Stop when you're told to, for respect for your colleagues and respect for the students. Student interaction, I mentioned already. Now, we all know, and Peter, I'm sure, could give us the latest studies, lectures are not pedagogically at the cutting edge. It's seen as sort of old school chalk and talk, passive learning. So interact with the students, try and bring some interaction into your lectures. And one technique which I often use, and I'm going to ask you now, could you all please quick 1 minute try and write down any moment in any lecture you've been to that you remember. Any moment in any lecture that you've been to that you remember. And it can be like, oh, literally, does anyone come into your hand? And it might be that the overall lecture or a particular point. or something. Now, I'm going to throw you, Jamie, am I having any luck? People may have fallen asleep. I'd gone for about 20 minutes before getting anybody to do anything. Anything appear? I can't see the chat, I'm afraid, people.
Oh, yeah, no, we've got some. Well, there was an activity at the start. So,
good.
Yeah.
Give me one.
The lecturer showed a clip from Blackadder to explain 18th century parliamentary elections.
Fantastic. Is there another one?
Yeah, a medieval lecture framed around an elephant because the lecturer said they liked elephants.
Excellent. I love both of those. Okay, thank you both. I'm going to carry on. 2 tips. So my approach at the moment is I try and have one interactive moment in a lecture. Thank you, Jamie, where I'll ask the students a question. But I've got 2 tips for you. First, don't ask yes or correct, incorrect questions. So if you go, can you tell me the date of the abolition of the Corn Laws? You might get a lot of silence, particularly with first years, because people are embarrassed about getting it wrong. So it's better to ask open questions, I find, such as, oh, something if I'm doing the First World War, I might ask students to discuss, well, how have you learned about the First World War? And I'll say, have you watched a TV documentary program? Have you read a book? Were you taught it in school? So that's an open question that everybody can think about. Everybody can answer without feeling they're being put on the spot with right or wrong. And secondly, I'll say to them, for 2 minutes, talk about it to the person next to you. And I'll go around the room. If there's people on their own, I'll point to them, you talk to them. And they'll have 2 minutes. And then I will I'll say, would anyone like to put their hands up and share how they learned about the First World War? And then if nothing goes up, we'll go, well, would anyone like to say if they've heard something that somebody else said, if they give you permission, that you thought was interesting, to share that? And so those 2 techniques, not asking yes or no questions or right or wrong questions where students may feel embarrassed that they've given a wrong answer. And secondly, asking the students to talk to each other and then convening a discussion. And that, I find that really can energize the room and break the session up. But here's the warning, it takes time. And you can just about do it in 5 minutes, but really I find if I've given them 2 minutes, you've got almost a minute to set it up. They talk for 2 minutes, they're then giving their answer. You then might want to respond, maybe take another answer or 2. So I'm sort of always thinking it's going to take 7-8 minutes to do something like that. But increasingly, I think, okay, that means I can't develop a point, but the value for the engagement and interaction in the lecture theatre, I think it's worth it. Maybe you don't want to do it every time because it becomes mechanical, but I highly recommend it. Passing around objects can work very well. And then at the end of the lecture, when everyone's going to have a chance, you might then comment about something that you passed around at the beginning. I've had people giving handouts that people fill in. So there are different strategies. Show enthusiasm. I don't need to say this, I'm sure. If you're bored, how do you expect the students to be interested? So you've got to be enthusiastic about your topic. I hope we all are. And don't be put off if they're bored. Oh, I've had students yawn in my face, and it used to really throw me. And then my partner said to me, Max, what they did the night before is far more important in their lives than your lecture. shock horror, and that's a good lesson. Whatever happened to them, you're just a small part of their student experience. It's not that what we're doing isn't important, but for some of them, just getting to the lecture is the achievement. And of course it's rude to yawn in your face, but I think you have to be prepared. Respect, they came, so they're the good people. So be pleased with that. Okay, I'm gonna got a couple more minutes to finish with, and then we'll have a discussion. PowerPoint slides, again, I think we're all experts in a way in PowerPoint slides at the moment, because we see so many PowerPoints. As you've seen, my PowerPoint slides are very boring, and I like clarity, and I use them in this very straightforward way, but they're wonderful tools for information, for giving quotations, for giving definitions, for identifying factors, etc., and very useful then for students who miss the lectures, who can look at them later, and also for students with learning support plans, who then can be provided with the PowerPoints in advance. And I just wanted to mention the decolonizing agenda. I mean, I really have been interrogating what I did, and was very prompted by the excellent Royal Historical Society report in 2018. And I realized that my slides were very white and very male. The politics, I don't think, was reactionary in what I was saying, but my slides certainly were very white and male. Occasional woman, Margaret Thatcher mainly. So I reviewed my slides, and now, rather than sort of giving a lecture about the wonderful white liberals who drove reform in the 1960s, my response has been to foreground. That was wonderful in inverted commas, I should add. I'm mocking my own ignorance. I'm placed center stage the activists who campaigned. So we've got here Ragbir Singh, and I talk about Roy Hackett and Paul Stevenson. So I think it's important to review your slides, to step back and thinking about what you're presenting, the vision of history that you're presenting in the light of the decolonizing agenda. And I'm about to finish. I can just show you a couple of examples. So I think slides are really useful for providing information like this. They can refer it to later, for providing quotations, and for spelling. I hated when I was attending lectures, how do you spell that name that I've never heard of before? So the sadly missed late Francesca Carnevali, for example, are still a useful book, the 20th century Britain book. There you go, that's how you spell Carnevali. This is the limit for me. Moving bullet points. I do like moving bullet points. You can do a lot with moving images, etc. Factors, always good. I'm put this up partly to show how out of date and old I am. The reasons for the new liberal welfare reforms. Oh dear, I haven't used this recently, you'll be glad to hear. So PowerPoint's excellent tools. Again, make sure they're legible, not too small. I think minimum 24 if you're in a point in a lecture theatre, and think about colours. And I think as well, what you've seen, PowerPoint should support the lecture. Don't just read out your what's on them. As you've seen, I've hoped to do today, the information is there, you can use it lecture, but I try and talk around the PowerPoint slides. So I hope this has been useful in just giving you some common sense tips about lecturing. I'll finish there, and we've got 5 or 10 minutes for questions or comments. If people want to share their best practice, that would be great. But I want to end just in sort of the more formal, my own formal lecture bit, is to emphasize this point as well about developing your own style. And I think that's really key. Obviously, we'll all have lecturers that we like and admire and we think that's great, but that might not fit your style. And that's fine, honestly. I've got some colleagues at Manchester, and I won't name them out of embarrassment, who are really intensely shy, but fantastic lecturers because they've developed their own, they know that they're highly intelligent and they know what they want to achieve in their 50 minutes, and they've developed their own style. So develop your own style. I hope you've taken some common sense wisdom from these tips, and enjoy it as well, because again, it's a cliche, but if you're enjoying it and enthusiastic, then that gives you the best chance that the students will as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Max. We've got some very positive feedback coming in the chat, and I really enjoyed that too. And I've seen elements of it before, so there's always something new to take away from it. So that was great. Yeah, does anyone have any comments or any questions for Max? I mean, the one thing that I would say is that the final point is that developing your own style. It's I think in terms of teaching more generally, but I think particularly in terms of lecturing, it's not a good idea to try and mimic an individual. I think you can pick elements of that people have that you think align with your own sort of how you like to do it, and then test them out. I think that's the other thing as well. It's like it's something you can play around with and develop over time. It's not going to be, you're not going to be kind of fully formed immediately. It takes time to practice.
May I make one more point as well, Jamie?
Yeah.
Just in case if there's any questions, or people as well want to share good practice if they think, oh, this was great. The one point I wanted to make is that if we all had unlimited time, I'd rather be in seminars. You know, I think in terms of learning, I think even if I'm doing a bit of lecturing in a seminar, but I think lectures will remain in some form because of the efficiency of delivery in terms of contact hours, which we've talked about. And you could argue that they're all just going to be recorded on Blackboard, and I didn't get into that. And most of our lectures are being recorded now, and many students are watching them like that. But I think we can by making the lecture interactive, that you can encourage students to attend as well. And as we know, that is part of the experience, that actually creates those interactions. Peter mentioned his 4 students getting together, making a film, immediately getting to know each other, going to the lecture, saying to the person, should we grab a coffee? You know you're on the same course if you're there. And we all know that actually it is a different experience on campus to having a distance learning experience. And I'm very much in favor of trying to get students back. And I know we're all feeling attendance has gone down since COVID because people have become more passive in front of screens. But the lecture, I think, has still got a role to play in our modern learning, alongside all the other wonderful online tools that we've got.
Fantastic. I think there's a couple of some good comments in the chat as well around like agreeing a contract between the lecturer and the students to emphasize that idea of it being an active kind of to and fro rather than just a kind of transmissive experience. And then there's a great idea here is like that students take their notes, have the option of taking their notes communally in a Google Doc throughout the lecture, and they can answer each other's questions. I think that's a brilliant idea from Sadie. And that really makes it even more of a communal experience.
I've used that in seminars during last year, and it worked really, really well. A colleague had started using it. A Jamboard was the technology. Is that and they were doing it in that and getting people to post things up. And there's no doubt that some students are much more comfortable, even if it would be on screen, are much more comfortable. So rather than using questions, you could have them on screen in a lecture, and some students will be much more comfortable about doing that than they will be about actually speaking in a lecture theatre.